Hey guys. Oh, here we go. All right. So we don't have to deal with the same frustrating intro. What's up, guys?
Yeah.
We're back.
Well, not we're back. This is my first time on the show.
Keelan and I
If
are
you're
back.
not aware, my name is Matt SKAFF. I am co-hosting today with Lindsey. Brandon is in Mexico, and he wanted me to just hop on, and I'm here to just support Lindsey as she tries to navigate her first time leading a podcast.
Well, so Brandon, he's like, okay, I'm flying out to Cancun. He's got CJJ this weekend. And he's like, I think you should just do the podcast, just you and Keelan. And I was like, is Keelan going to like talk a lot? Because my deal is I just kind of show up, and Brandon and Keelan have everything taken care of. And I just show up and add, my insightful comments like I do every week. But I was like, SKAFF, will you come on the podcast, please, and do most of the talking? And please save us. And he was like, oh, you'll do fine all by yourself. I was like, have you seen Between Two Ferns? That's what's going to happen. I'm going to be Zach Galifianakis. It's going to be the most awkward thing that you've ever seen. But SKAFF is here to save us this week. And
I'm just here to support. I'm not here to save.
No.
I'm just, if there's ever like a dead silence, I was kind of worried in the beginning in the intro. I didn't know what you were going to do. And I was like, oh man, because the intro is the hardest part. Once you start talking, you can make it flow. But that awkward kind of like, okay, how do we start this bad boy?
We perpetuate the awkward, I think. So it's okay.
I made it sound like SKAFF kind of did a mini takeover with the titling.
Oh, yeah.
I said, Brandon and SKAFF have a podcast now? Question mark. So, yeah.
He's taking over.
I mean, hey, I think the people after they see me this week, they might be asking for some, at least one person to change. I'm not saying it's going to be Brandon or Lindsey. It might be one. Maybe I just take over the whole show and it's just another SKAFF podcast. Yeah.
Okay. But you have another podcast. So this is your opportunity to plug your podcast and let us know what's been going on with your podcast.
It's kind of weird. Like, I almost don't like plugging my podcast anymore because it's just growing. I don't know how it's growing. People are hearing about it. And I don't know. I'm always like I'm always super happy that I never plug it and it's growing. So,
yeah.
But anyways, yeah, I've got my own podcast. It's called The Grappling Discourse. It's been doing great. I've really been kind of blown away by how much it's grown without ever doing any advertisement or any plugging, really. So yeah, if you want to check that out, check it out.
And you've been doing a lot of interviews, some pretty interesting interviews lately.
I try and do an interview once every 10 days. It's really tough. I've had, this is a great time to talk about our guest today, Phil Schwartz. Phil Schwartz came on my podcast. We had a blast. Phil's one of the guys, him and Sean Applegate are in my opinion, the two guys that I really look to as great coaches, not instructors, great coaches. They also can teach a really good class, but they're phenomenal coaches, and their athletes are constantly, they constantly have guys that are blue, purple belt, winning high level events and doing really, really well against high level, brown and black belts. And so we talked a lot about that, and I'm excited to chat today with Phil and a little bit more. My podcast is serious, Brandon's podcast. Anytime I'm ever tuning in, it's very goofy. So I'm excited to have Phil on in a little bit more of a goofy sense instead of like asking him like super deep, like, how do you, yeah, exactly. Questions. Yeah. So if you're looking for like the philosophical side, check out The Grappling Discourse. We did a great podcast, but I think today we're going to have a lot of fun, and I'm interested to hear kind of, Lindsey, what you've prepared to chat with Phil about.
All right. So let's welcome Phil Schwartz.
What's up, guys?
Planet Portland. Hey, how's it going?
It's good to be here. I'm coming to you live from week 5 of parenting. So that's kind of my framework for everything right now. And SKAFF, don't bury the lead. You have a great podcast. I love The Grappling Discourse. So that's
thanks, bro.
Yeah, no, it's a great podcast. And actually, this is my first time participating in the Brandon and Lindsey have a podcast, and I
And
love
no
hanging
Brandon.
out with these two. So, and now, but that with sans Brandon, so that's okay. Little bait and switch, little SKAFF
Yeah.
bait and switch. That's okay. And I just have one question starting out, because it looks like you guys are broadcasting from $1 million home somewhere,
Yeah.
maybe in
We're in Martha's Vineyard.
okay, I was
Whoa,
gonna
whoa.
say Beverly Hills, maybe. My main question is does that guitar come with the house, or
No,
is
this
that
is actually real.
you can play that?
Well,
Someone could.
I can strum it
Someone
right.
could.
Someone
I
could
can't
play it.
actually.
Okay. So that's just, that guitar is there just in case we want to
Yes.
break into song. I can get my guitar. We can
Oh yeah,
jam.
you play?
Well,
Okay, I didn't know you played.
honestly, I grew up playing. I grew up playing in bands, and I played bass guitar. And then the last time I came to Decatur to hang out with Brandon kind of serenaded me
Yeah.
for I don't know, 3-4 hours maybe, and I felt a little inept because I couldn't really join in. So I'm trying to learn acoustic guitar. So hopefully by my next trip to Decatur, I can actually play some chords. So we'll see.
Okay. Or you can. I'm sure it wouldn't take much. You could convince Brandon to buy a bass guitar.
That's true.
It wouldn't take much.
He has a drum set. He's got a bunch of guitars. He doesn't have bass guitar. I didn't think about convincing him just to buy a bass guitar for me. Now I'm just gonna learn a whole new instrument so I can jam with Brandon.
Yeah, for sure. Well, tell us about. So your son's name is Jack, right?
Jack, yeah, Jack.
Yeah.
Henry.
So tell us about these 5 weeks.
Oh man.
In the beginning, they're
He might
hard.
Jack might make a cameo later in the podcast.
Okay.
At some
Yeah.
point. We might see him, but man, I mean, I would like to say that jiu-jitsu has prepared me for parenting. I think that it's made me a little bit better, just mostly in the mental aspects. Obviously it's not so physical yet because he and I can't actually wrestle yet, but
Right.
at some point my physical training is going to come in, and I'm going to dominate him for like
Of
years. He won't be able to keep up. But right now, just the mental training, I think has made me a better parent. Just being a black belt and kind of coming at things with what I call a black belt mentality, and I feel like that's kind of one of the underappreciated values of jiu-jitsu, is that as you get deeper into it, you start to approach other parts of your life differently, and I call it the black belt mentality. So when you approach parenting with the black belt mentality or anything, your guitar or whatever, you're coming at it as a black belt in something, not necessarily as you're not going to start out as a black belt. I'm not a black belt in parenting. I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu, but I'm trying to apply those lessons across. And the first couple of weeks, you're just trying to keep the thing alive. So
Definitely. The first few weeks, it's like a gauntlet. You're not sleeping, but you're still trying to make good decisions. So yeah, I can see where it's almost like a kumite. Like every day you got like all these, obstacles that you got to get through, or all these like rounds that you got to get through, and you've had no sleep, and you're trying to keep another human alive. And then once they start walking and stuff, they're trying to constantly like go into danger. Like I'm going to go head first into danger, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, he doesn't. He does a move right now where you'll be holding him, and then he'll like headbutt you, or he'll like headbutt off to the side, and you have to catch him right away. So
that's what Hezbollah does.
Yeah, the reflexes are good. He's got that big head. You know what I mean? He's got that big head.
Yeah. Okay. Well, tell us how everything's going in Portland. How's the school?
Oh, 1 second. Oh, is he here?
Is he coming?
Coming to say hi? Oh, he's puking? Okay, 1 second.
Party.
Like the lion thing. Oh, he's wearing his...
Yeah. Oh, look at
Jack.
him. He's waving. Hey, Jack.
And he's wearing his... let's see if we can see. He's wearing his 10th Planet onesie.
Oh, yeah, see.
For the occasion. Hey, buddy.
Cutie.
So how long, Phil, will it take you to teach Jack until he can beat Lindsey?
Oh, I mean,
How many years?
it'll take him
Oh,
at least
man.
5 or 6 years to learn that much jujitsu.
That's what I was.
All
I
right,
mean,
Jack, it's me and you. We got a match coming up in 5 years.
and
This
he
is his
said or
first.
6. He
He's
gets
a little shy.
year.
This is his first studio debut. You know,
Oh, this is your first podcast
his
appearance.
first podcast. Say hi.
Awesome. He's
Oh,
about to
he's-
go back to sleep.
He's
He's tired from all that
He
puking.
wants to be asleep right now. But he's not. The fact that he's not crying or puking is a good sign right now.
Aw. Well, good.
Mwah.
Is he sleeping through the night?
No.
No.
He doesn't sleep through the night. He wakes up. He wants to eat like every like 3 hours.
Oh, good. That means he's growing then.
Oh yeah, he's getting a little fat around his legs.
Oh,
Oh,
what a cutie.
being good. Okay, I'm gonna hand him back off.
Wow. He's precious. It's hard to remember. So, like next year, my 2 children are going to be in high school. It's so hard to remember, like just them being so tiny like that.
Yeah.
So, yes, take advantage and you just soak up all the snuggles. Like my daughter now, she's just like, I don't want you to hug me. Don't touch me. So, yeah, while they can't protest, just get all the little snuggles and kisses in that you can.
Your kids are big. They can fend for themselves now. You can put them out like in the wild,
I know. My 13-year-old's as tall as me. Her hands, like I have enormous hands, and her hands are as big as mine. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think her hands are bigger than mine. It was a very like kind of emasculating
Yeah,
moment.
she was like showing off.
She always,
look, my hands.
She's always liked to kind of try and alpha me, especially when she was like 8, 9, and 10 years old. And so when she brought her hand up the other day and it was a little bit bigger than mine. And I've got average sized hands. I definitely do not have small hands.
Right.
But maybe I do. I don't know. Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe
average.
I think they're average for sure. But yeah, they were at least the same size, maybe a little bit bigger than mine. I definitely couldn't take anything like away as a victory. Like, no, I think maybe I was even trying to inch up a little bit, and it was just I was just getting to the even point.
But
so.
she has been trying to alpha you for a long time. She's always like, I've been training longer than you, SKAFF.
Yeah,
that's
so
why
I came out of the womb training. I've been training 13 years. How long have you been training? And I'm like,
that's when you just have to come in with the foot sweep out of nowhere, just sweep right away.
It's one of those things that I think it's super important to always have. There's 2 styles, right, to beat kids. You have the Michael Jordan, like I'm just gonna swat, like you come down the lane and you're 6, I'm swatting it into the second row. I'm more of the, hey, I'm going to let you score 10 points, but I'm just going to beat you to 11. So we have close matches.
I see.
Well, how's Portland? How's the school going?
The school is good. School's on fire. I think we're the energy is really good and everything like post lockdown, the rebounds have been really good. And I think that most schools who really worked hard to kind of keep their communities alive during the lockdown and didn't just kind of give in, I think those are the ones that rebounded really well. And I've definitely know of a lot of schools that suffered and they continue to suffer in certain places, and it's not their fault. Like there are still areas in the country or even in the world, where the lockdowns are really harsh. And we're actually making a 10th Planet wide t-shirt to support schools that are still stuck in the lockdown. So it's gonna be some art of Eddie and Hoyler, and it's gonna say I was into lockdowns before they were cool.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah, so that we're gonna sell those. Those are gonna be available to all the moons, and we're gonna sell them and raise some money for the guys that are still kind of stuck in that situation. But in Portland, we're doing really well. People are showing up. People are loving jiu-jitsu. Everybody's healthy. Everybody's happy. So I personally really love being back on the mats, and I just took a month off of teaching from the baby, and I didn't realize how much I was gonna miss just being on the mats, teaching, working with the students, and like it just feels so good to get back on. So Portland's great. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so everything's open. What's it like
Well,
city wise?
you, I mean, there's like, it's funny because people ask me all the time, like, oh my God, what's going on? And it's like, there's Portland, the school, and then there's Portland, the city. It's
Okay.
like Portland, the school's doing great. Portland, the city, everything's back open. There are a lot of places that are like asking for vaccine cards or all that kind of stuff. So there are some like more enforcement of the mandates. But more or less, like businesses are back open, restaurants are back open, you can eat, all that
Okay.
kind of stuff. So yeah, the city, I honestly might have to run for mayor at some point, even though I actually moved out of the city. We actually moved across the state line. So we live in Washington now.
Oh, okay.
But it's yeah, we're just right across the state line in Washington. But I would consider running to be the mayor of Portland if we could change some things, because
I could see you doing that. I could
it's
see you
gotten
doing that actually.
it's gotten out of hand. It's gotten out of hand. Someone needs to kind of rein in the chaos of Portland.
Yeah. So Brandon, well, I guess did you go out to LA for the eclipse thing this
I
past
couldn't.
weekend or
I
2 weekends
couldn't.
ago?
No, I'll be there for the next one. I couldn't make it for this last one, but I watched online, so I got to
Okay.
be there digitally. But no, it was
Yeah.
it looked like a cool event.
I just didn't know if it was Brandon was saying LA is you have to have a vaccination card to get into any restaurants and that kind of thing. I was like, how are you going to eat? But any place that had like a to go, you could pick it up, and get your to go order and that kind of thing. Or some places would let him eat out on the patio and that kind of thing. So I didn't know if Portland was still like that or if they were more lax on their restrictions.
I think the whole West Coast is like that pretty much.
Okay.
And I mean, most of the East Coast, if you don't count Florida. I mean, I think everyone has been hoping for what, 2 years that this would just end, and that
Yeah,
things would
it's
just
still
go.
hanging on.
Yeah, it's still hanging on. So, it can die whenever it wants. It can end. We're over it. We went back to our lives. We went back to the things that matter to us, and the most important thing is obviously like family and jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? And I think there's a lot of people who have given up other parts of their lives and kind of like prioritized and focused.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's maybe one of the benefits of losing what you think is really important to you. You can lose some important things, and then you can find have new priorities, or you find out what really matters to you, and that's jiu-jitsu. So we still have jiu-jitsu. So we're happy about
absolutely. That. Well, so I know that you always have like something in the works. Like you always have some big plan going on. Like, do you have any big trips planned, or is that even like a thing that you're working on now that the baby's young, or what do you got in the works right now?
So we have a little family vacation plan to Hawaii, and then kind of based on how that's going to go, I think that will open us up to some more bigger jiu-jitsu events and stuff. But my next goal, now that the baby's here, my next goal is to bring Shugyo, the Shugyo Invitational back. But I have a new format of how I think I want to do the Shugyo, and I think that what's best for us and best for the sponsors and best for the athletes is we're going to take the show on the road, and we're going to travel to different destinations, and we're going to make some special super fight matchups in those destinations. And so we're going to try and bring to the audience. I can't announce any of the people we're talking to yet, but instead of doing one big season of fights, I think we're just going to try and like pop up here, do a couple of fights, pop up somewhere else, do a couple of fights. So you won't know, I mean, we might pop up in San Diego, Austin, New York City, Florida, Michigan, Chicago. So we just kind of pop up a few places and then drop a couple of fights and then pop up somewhere else. So I think it's going to be a little bit more of a guerrilla attack for a little while, and then we'll build our way back up to another big invitational.
It'll be no time limit still. Are you still going to have the no time limit matches?
Yep, it'll still be no time limit.
So
Shugyo's motto is submission guaranteed. So we guarantee you a submission one way or another. So could be it hasn't happened yet. I haven't seen this yet, but I would love for someone to just quit mentally, like to break mentally and just to like walk out. You know, that would be crazy. Like if someone
do you know what your what's the longest match that you had?
The longest match we've had was 72 minutes long.
Okay.
Yeah, that kind of happened in Lloyd's Kumite with the Brazilian representative Victor Silverio, if you remember that. Like he just kind of quit in a couple of his matches. He was 30, 40 minutes deep and he just quit. I know there was one particularly where he just mentally quit. And it was a fascinating thing to see, you know. He didn't quit, like he didn't just give up his neck and quit. He like physically just went and tapped and just left because he was like, all right. He knew he wasn't going to win and just left.
We see that, like you see that in the UFC all the time. And I tell that to people, like when you see a guy just go belly down and give up his neck, you know, like
like Amanda Nunes.
I was going to ask you that. We're talking about that.
They're not really getting necessarily bested on skill right there at that moment, right? They just know that that's a way out because they're tired of being there. You know, they're just tired of whatever is going on. And so that's the way out, is just to give up your neck, you know? And some fighters, you know, like Khabib and such, like some people won't let you have that exit. They'll just be like, nope, like I'm not going to choke you out. We're going to stay here and like keep doing some ground and pound or whatever, you know? So that hasn't happened yet in Shugyo's rules. Everyone has always fought to the death, and it's always been really exciting matches. So I would like to hear from the fans what dream matchups they'd want to see of just one-on-one super fights, essentially, that are like exciting to the fans. You know, like who do we want to see? You know, do we want to see PJ Barch versus someone, or maybe one of the Tackett brothers, or maybe, you know, one of the Rutolos, or like who do we want to see in the no time limit format, you know? And of course, like we've seen Gordon. Gordon's one of the only people who has stepped up to no time limit in terms of like the big pros, you know? And so I think a lot of people are afraid of no time limit, and we have a request for SKAFF to get SKAFF into Shugyo. We could put SKAFF in Shugyo. SKAFF, I don't know, is SKAFF's cardio ready for Shugyo? I'm not sure.
Dude, beep test.
Yes.
Yeah, I tell people all the time are like, SKAFF, like when are you going to compete again? The answer is not anytime soon, man. I love not competing. I love coaching. I love just training, but I'm a huge fan. You know, I'm a jiu-jitsu fan. I think like stepping away from competition, I haven't competed now in like I competed one time at black belt at Brian Brown's 32 man, and I won my first two matches and then lost to one of Cyborg's black belts in the quarterfinals. But anyways, so got a couple matches at black belt. I'm happy with that. It's been a few years. What it's allowed me to do though is become more of a fan, find myself rooting more, and like just being able to enjoy other people's successes more than when I was like trying to compete and just only thinking about myself and my development. I say that to say, man, I really like that idea. And there's a bunch of guys I would really like to see some of I'm always a fan of like purple and brown belt no time limit matchups. You know, anytime you get I remember Damian Anderson faced Steve Caston up there in New York, and they had a no time limit match, and it was awesome. And Damian ended up catching him with the heel hook. But I like that. I like seeing purple belts go up against like higher belts, some of these like up and coming dudes, you know, that can make a name for themselves, and you get to see more of their jiu-jitsu than just in that 5 minute, especially like a submission underground 5 minute match. I would like to see some really tough purple and brown belts go against black belts, if you can get black belts to take those matches.
Yeah, there's almost no jiu-jitsu that happens in submission underground, it's like and
Yeah.
and you know what? And I love Submission Underground, and those are my friends, and I appreciate, and I've competed on Submission Underground. But 5 minutes is so short that there's very little that can happen. And you know what's interesting is that there's very little jiu-jitsu that happens in Polaris either. And like Polaris are like 10-minute nose time limit, or 10-minute submission only rounds, and still they end up in draws. Like most of the time it's like a lot of draws, and that's the problem with a lot of these time formats, is that people know that they can fight their way to a draw or fight to win. They can fight their way to a referee decision, essentially, you know, or Submission Underground. People are trying to fight their way or stall their way towards EBI overtime. And in Shugyo, that doesn't exist. There's no opportunities. You cannot stall your way to any kind of benefit, you know? And I think that if you guys remember the very first quintet that happened, when they were really heavy on the stalling calls, and it was like almost like too heavy on the stalling calls, but like erring on the side of too heavy, I feel like that was exciting. I feel like that made the scrambles more exciting, and it almost felt like there's a third opponent in the ring. Like there's like the two guys fighting, and then there's the referee, and he's not satisfied. Like, boom, someone's starting on your back, like right away, like in regulation time, not like in overtime, you know? And like I think jiu-jitsu needs that, and I hope that ADCC brings in like heavier stalling calls. I think everyone is like eyes on ADCC right now, and I think that we need like much stricter stalling calls in order to make that much more exciting, because everyone's like, oh, did you see like Gary Tonen's match at ADCC? I love Gary Tonen, but the way Gary Tonen fights, he doesn't get rewarded in ADCC. He's the most exciting fighter, you know, but he doesn't get rewarded by the rules format. So I think we need like to see things shift a little bit towards the exciting.
You know, the one competitor I have to see in a no time limit match is Estevan Martinez, right? The Giant Slayer. Guys have not been able to submit him. He had that match with Keith. He's had that match with Damian Anderson. He's very, very difficult. I would just be really fascinated. This looks like his cardio, like he can go all day. I would really like to see him in a matchup of, you know, like a Keith Krikorian, a guy that's just going to be able to, you know, kind of dictate the offense on him for a long time, but kind of see if that breaks, you know, because you're going to end up breaking at some point. A lot of guys are. And I just think Estevan, man, is going to be a super exciting, no time limit Shugyo competitor.
Yes, I always underestimate him when he's coming up and I'm watching a match, and that's always a huge mistake because I'm always fascinated just watching him. He's amazing. But
yeah, the at the last Who's Number One, I think it was the lightweight division like impressed me the most, you know, or featherweight or whatever it was. Like I think that the technical, like what's his name, Diego Pato,
yeah,
like some of these tiny guys, like the skill and the stamina, it's just incredible, you know. But everyone has a breaking point, and that's what Shugyo wants to find. Is we want to find your breaking point. So it's a little sadistic, you know, but I've been saying recently that great jiu-jitsu comes from people who are sadomasochistic, because you have to be able to take the pain and give the pain. So you have to be able to do both, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're preparing for PGF coming up in January, Brandon's tournament that he's putting together. And just thinking about like some of these competitors are going to have 3 or 4 matches each night for it. The thing is a whole week, right? But they're not competing, I think, on a Friday. So, I mean, it's a gauntlet for sure.
PGF is fun too, because PGF brings a little bit of the like gym roll vibe, where it's like we have 2 really good guys going. Everyone's a skilled competitor, but it doesn't feel like it's a fight to the death necessarily. It feels a little bit more friendly, and we have these guys dunking on each other, and we have like some crazy highlights, and like I love that about PGF. And I love the opportunity, like you said, SKAFF, to kind of see up and coming guys show what they're made of, you know?
Yeah, that's my favorite thing about these shows. What I loved about your first Shugyo is, you know, we saw a competitor that I was unaware of. You know, I wasn't expecting, you know, the guy from Las Vegas, you know, that trains out of, you know, that
Oh,
ends up,
Max Roshkoff.
yeah, Max Roshkoff. Dude, him putting Ethan to sleep made that season. That was
Right.
the moment that I'll always remember. Like, dude, like purple belt. Nobody gave that guy a chance, but you know, he's a D1 wrestler, MMA fighter, and puts Ethan to sleep. Like those are the moments, and PGF has had some of those to a lesser extent where we've seen some, you know, really big upsets, blue belts being able to kind of make themselves a little bit of a name. And I love when shows give those guys opportunities.
And part of what's a little bit different about shows like Shugyo or PGF, and this is why I really want to see more of this in the future. And I'm still waiting for, you know, Amazon, UFC Fight Pass, and Netflix to reach out to me. You know what I mean? My phone number is out there. You know what I mean? I'm waiting for that Amazon call, but I want to see grappling get the treatment it deserves. And so in a show like PGF or a show like Shugyo, where we film everything and then we go to the editing room, we get to give a lot more significance to a big event when a big event happens. So we are much more documentarians. And if you think about a live stream, the problem with a live stream is, you know, like think about like the classic Joe Rogan, Daniel Cormier reaction now, where it's like, oh my God, there's a big knockout, and we're just like, whoa. And then it's like, okay, there's one instant replay, and then we're on to the next fight. You know what I mean? Whereas like in Shugyo or PGF, if there's a big upset, we can pause, we can go into the editing booth, we can tell the story around what's happening in the before and the aftermath, and we can interview the guys, and we can like get deep into that a little bit deeper. And I think that fans want that. I think fans want more storytelling and less just like live sports.
What was the time period between the actual event and then the release date for Shugyo?
Okay,
like,
well,
how long did you have to keep it a secret?
Kind of a while. It was like over 3 months. It was like just about 3 months. And
Wow.
the one of the good things about Shugyo was that I told all the athletes, like, hey, like, we're not going to take pictures. Don't post about this online. Don't even tell people you're doing this tournament. Just fly out, do your matches, and fly home. And like, we'll let you know when it's time to talk about it. And I think that was good because people had no idea what was coming. And so they didn't know to bother anyone. Like Ethan probably went home and people were said, hey, how'd it go? And he was like, what? It was fine. You know, like there's nothing, not too much to say, you know? Now, if you told everybody at your gym, like, oh shit, I'm doing Shugyo, everyone probably bothering you, like, hey, what happened? So we wanted to cut down on that, you know? And also we edited the show ourselves. Like me and the director, Bam, we were the whole crew. We did everything, you know? I mean, we had people who helped us film, but we did all the editing, all the audio editing, all the video, all the cutting, all the post. Like that was all just the two of us. So it was just like a line of joints and like energy drinks, and like we were just going for months, like editing.
That's why it took you 3 months, is because you were doing it all by yourself.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, one of the biggest mistakes we made was we got so excited about the first couple of episodes that we dropped the first episode before we finished the last episode. And so that kind of put us on a time crunch where we were like, oh shit, like we dropped the first episode. So now we have to make a new episode every week or like every 2 weeks. We had to we put ourselves on that like professional movie or TV timeline where it's like, hey, every 2 weeks we have to drop a new episode.
That was a huge mistake, because I remember being like kind of upset, like, where is Shugyo? Like, what's going? Like, why have they not dropped the second episode yet? You know. And so I think that's hilarious. I do remember being like, come on, like, what are these, like, Phil, what are you doing, dude? Like, in my head, I'm like, I need to see this.
We said oh, episodes are gonna drop on like Wednesday or Friday or whatever. And then it would be like Friday,
Wednesday.
It'd be like Wednesday 11:59 p.m. And then everyone's just like, I'm still waiting for this week's episode. I'm waiting for this week's episode. And then like, but you know, when you're like, I mean, when you're strung out at 2 o'clock in the morning, and it's just like, the thing is, if it's not good enough, it can't go out. You know, like it has to be quality over everything. And honestly, if people have to wait a little bit longer and that builds the anticipation, then that's a good thing, you know? And it's a little bit like dealing with your drug dealer, because that's what someone told me that. They were like, man, you got me like a crack addict, like waiting out here, like scratching my arm for more Shugyo. And I think that's a good thing. I think that it's like a buildup. But I for the next season, for sure, for the next fights, things are going to be a lot better, like timed out, and like all the production will be done and it'll be all consistent. And one of the biggest promises I made to all the fans from season 1 to season 2 or futures is we are going to get the audio perfect. Like the audio on season 1, there's a lot of inconsistencies. It's not perfect. And so in season 2 and beyond, we're definitely going to have like really good audio to match the video content. So I promise it will be better.
So with your traveling, you taking the Shugyo on the road, is that going to be live stream or is it going to be produced?
Nope. Still going to be produced.
Okay. Yep. So you prefer it being done that way because you can put it out exactly like you want it to be.
Yeah, I couldn't to make, like, when you see a live streamed event and it looks like the production quality looks good on the live stream event, it's crazy how many people are involved in like making that look good. Okay, here's a little 10th Planet story that like connects here, and I think this is like relevant. Okay. I asked Eddie Bravo one time, why do you call it the truck? Okay. Why is the truck called the truck? Because everything in 10th Planet has a reason, even if the reason doesn't make sense. And I was thinking, if you could imagine this, I was thinking, okay, you're in the truck and you're controlling both of their feet, right? Because you got both feet. You got the calf slicer, you got the other side, right? And you're right here. So it looks like you're driving a big wheel, you know, like you're big wheeling, right? Okay. And I was like, okay, so you're like driving the truck, right? I was like, okay, that makes sense. So I was like, Eddie, why is it called the truck? And he goes, no, it's because of the production truck. Like, go camera 1, go camera 2, go camera 3. Like, Eddie's vision was like, you have so many options in the truck position that you can switch over here and switch over there. So it's like the production truck. So that's what we would need, a production truck to make a live production work.
Because Eddie used to work in the truck at UFC, right? He would be in the
exactly. He knows the truck. Right. So that's
interesting. It's never like simple with Eddie. Like the explanations are never like what you would think that, you know, oh, this is probably pretty straightforward. No, it's like
zombie's the best example. The zombie from Rubber Guard is the best. Like, you're like, it's a zombie because you just reach up from the ground. Zombies' arms go up. They don't go down. Like, have you guys ever seen a white belt try to zombie the wrong way? And you're like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
What a zombie does.
Zombie goes like this. Zombie goes like this. You know, and then you can go like, well, why is it called crackhead control? It's like, because you can control a crackhead with it. Like, okay, that's good. That works. I am wearing the Look Into It t-shirt.
I saw that. That's nice. Did you make that, or is that something that Eddie sells?
No, one of my students made this, but we need to sell
really?
it.
Yeah, for sure. You put that on the same website that you're putting the t-shirts on.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So let us know, anybody in Portland we need to be keeping our eye on. Like, you got any competitors that are up and coming?
Oh man, we have a lot of competitors up and coming. We have a lot of. I'm really impressed with some of our blue and purple belts that are coming up. And one of the biggest things that I've noticed, and this I just saw a question pop up on the screen here, which was any advice for a blue belt taking a go at ADCC trials. And the thing that I want to say is that the biggest change that I've seen, like as much as I love all of our, we have some really great, black belts and brown belts at my gym, but the difference in my purple belts and my blue belts and even some of the white belts is the wrestling emphasis, the emphasis in wrestling and stand-up game. And even guys like Boogie and other people, at the top are saying things like, I've neglected my wrestling for too long, but now I'm focused, like super focused on my wrestling. And at our gym, we have a big emphasis on stand-up wrestling. And we have a lot of wrestlers with wrestling experience, whether they wrestled in high school or college, like the Elkin Bros, like guys coming in with wrestling experience. It completely changes their ability to succeed in jiu-jitsu, And so to the gentleman who asked about a blue belt taking a go at ADCC, understand that ADCC is a wrestling event. It's a wrestling-based tournament. And so you need to study the rules that will allow you to wrestle effectively. For example, in ADCC, if you can just simply knock somebody off their feet, whether it's a blast double, a trip, just a stumble, and then you can effectively stop them from standing back up, that's a takedown. That's a takedown. That can win you the match, So in my up and coming guys, I'm focused on exposing them to not just all of the classic jiu-jitsu wrestling. Jiu-jitsu, including, leg locks, 10th planet game, rubber guard, lockdown, all that kind of stuff, but also huge emphasis on live standing rounds and live wrestling, because we need to master that. And we actually just had a really exciting, we have a judo and jiu-jitsu black belt who's training with us now. Shout out to Mustache Lou. And he gave us a quick seminar on the Taiotoshi throw, which you can find the highlights on 10th Planet Portland's Instagram. We're really trying to step up the 10th Planet Portland Instagram. So if you go to 10th Planet Portland's Instagram and follow, you're going to see live content every day, not just from myself, but from all of my coaches. So we're sharing all of the coaches' feedback and whatever we're drilling in class. But you can see all of the Taiotoshi throw that we just learned. And that's been our main emphasis, is the stand-up game.
I completely agree that there's such a deficit in most jiu-jitsu schools with wrestling. And yes, if you do have a wrestling background, or you're currently practicing wrestling, that you're going to have a leg up for sure. And so, we saw Matt Elkins a little earlier making a comment on the stream there. We've got him coaching our noon classes this month, and I have been really enjoying just working on my wrestling. I'm not going to go compete anywhere, but just, I don't know, it's just been so much fun.
Shout out to Matt Elkins. Love Matt Elkins.
Yeah.
And that's awesome, having someone so high level being able to come in and share stuff. And I've definitely heard students complain in the past about having to do too much wrestling. I don't want to do wrestling. I want to do jiu-jitsu, blah, blah, blah. It's a pretty weak mindset, and it's a pretty unsuccessful mindset to not want to master something that you're not that good at, And something that we've seen, I think, all over in jiu-jitsu, and we definitely see this in Who's Number One. We see this in all the top tournaments. There's a lot of people out there who did not wrestle collegiately, but have put the time into their wrestling where they can compete and they can be competitive and they can survive on their feet. The people who have put no time into their wrestling are essentially forced to pull guard every time, even the likes of Craig Jones. Craig Jones is not known as a wrestler. You know what I mean? No one thinks that Craig Jones is a wrestler. He is known for pulling guard. He's a notorious guard puller, right? But in his last Rutola match, he showed that he could stand up to his feet and achieve a takedown and dominate, in that way also. Now, we're probably not going to see that be his main strategy, but it's really cool to watch grapplers develop that way.
Do you think that he was, I don't know, I have some mixed feelings about that match. Do you think that he was coached into that? Do you think that was something that he'd just been working on and he wanted to show it off, or like, I don't know. Because it seemed like afterwards he was pretty reluctant to go. He was kind of like, I was just, he wasn't very excited about the outcome of that match.
Yeah, well, it wasn't the most exciting. I mean, it's always exciting to watch those guys compete. It wasn't the most exciting outcome necessarily. Yeah. But the big throw, the Harai Goshi throw, guys with Craig Jones's build are just made for that throw. Like guys with super long legs who can just drag you over, man, they're just made for that throw. And I've got short, stubby legs, and I wish I was better at that throw. I've been working a lot more like my body locks and like single legs and stuff like that. But I think Craig's kind of made for that throw. And I bet that there's a lot of people who would find it impossible to stop him from throwing you that way. But most people aren't going to run into that anymore, So, I think everyone ultimately wants the submission. So to get back to Shugyo and other formats, like I think that ultimately submission grappling is what we're interested in. Like, how excited are you guys that EBI is coming back? Like the fact that EBI is coming back, like pumps me up to no end,
Well, it's the new generation. The emphasis the guys are just way more well-rounded. IBJJF scene has taken a back seat, and so that rule set isn't as dominant. And you see a lot of the young guys, like, remember when people used to bag on like these promotions, like, oh, you've got blue belts competing for money. Like I remember people making fun of that all the time. But that is what's made these guys, because blue belts, like the only shows that were giving blue and purple belts chances were sub-only shows, shows like Finishers. Like you knew as a purple belt, you could get Finishers has had so many purple belts compete against top level black belts on their show. And so a lot of these younger guys have been training to go for the sub, and it's made them way more exciting than the old heads. I mean, there's some guys are just like Wagner Rocha right now. He's like, his last few matches have been unwatchable. Right. One match he had with Josh Hinger, it's just unwatchable. It's not fun at all to watch. Give me these purple belts that are coming up that have been molded into submission killers because of the opportunities that were available.
And so, you even see like a Mikey Musumeci type grappler making the move away from IBJJF into submission grappling. You know what I mean? And having success in that format.
Yeah, I mean, Felipe Pena he just retired from the gi, and he's just like, look, the rule set, it's not what I signed up for. And he's like, I'm either going to just start doing, he calls it grappling. He won't call it jiu-jitsu, but that's a whole nother story. But he's like, I'm either just going to do grappling, like no gi grappling, or I'm going to do MMA next. But the challenges of gi worlds, he's like, it just doesn't interest me anymore. That's how a lot of people feel.
I don't really feel that. I don't think that guys that have been doing jiu-jitsu for years and years and years should really transition into MMA. Like, I don't think professional jiu-jitsu fighters should transition into MMA. Like, I don't really think that Gary Tonin or Gordon Ryan or like Kron Gracie, like, I don't think they're going to be that successful in MMA, like long term, like, I think that the days of, I might be the outcast opinion here, but like, I think that MMA, I think it's a lot better in MMA to teach someone who's an accomplished wrestler, striker, how to do jiu-jitsu than it is to teach a jiu-jitsu fighter who's done nothing but gi jiu-jitsu for 10, 20 years, how to fight, how to box and wrestle. That's just my opinion.
I completely agree. What did you think about Ryan Hall's performance?
Which one? The most recent one?
The most recent one.
he's one of those guys where it's like he's either gonna look good or he's not gonna look good, you know. And like who was his most recent opponent?
The Darren Hemmings
Minner.
or Minner, Derek Minner. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, he's just one of those. Ryan Hall's one of those guys. Now, some of these guys, like Ryan Hall, he has some stand-up ability. You know what I mean? Like he has some stand-up ability, but I don't think anyone is expecting Ryan Hall to get knockouts on the feet. You know what I mean? And it's like some guys, like Damian Maya, for example, you know, we've seen like always had really high jiu-jitsu skills, but then over time they've put a lot of effort into their striking. So their striking has come up, you know. I don't think that Ryan Hall, I don't think we're going to see that part of Ryan Hall's game change that much. You know, I don't think that we're going to see him become like the most dominant striker in his division and then leave jiu-jitsu behind. You know, I think that like his game plan is his game plan, and it's pretty much going to win or lose for him depending on the matchup, you know?
Yeah, I don't think it's very well rounded. I mean, he's leading you into his jujitsu game. Like
For sure.
any striking that he's doing is just to get things to the ground. I mean, he was in Minari role, like I think that combat jujitsu is completely different than just like jujitsu that we teach. And so if you're a very high level jujitsu player, it still doesn't necessarily translate to MMA. I think it's different. And you got to start over like almost at like step one.
Combat jiu-jitsu is exactly where people should go. That's exactly. Felipe Pena should do combat jiu-jitsu. That's what he should do. Fuck MMA. Fuck Felipe Pena doing MMA. Felipe Pena should do combat jiu-jitsu. I'm so excited to see guys like Donald Cerrone, Craig Jones, Uriah Faber. I mean, obviously we were excited to see Rashad Evans, in people like this stepping into combat jiu-jitsu. That's exactly what we want to see. Slightly less much less damaging than MMA, you know, in terms of body strikes, leg kicks, kicks to the head, you know, obviously that's a lot less damage. Still a combative art. And we're looking right into what makes jiu-jitsu the most real. Like, I'll be straight up. When combat jiu-jitsu replaced EBI, I was not a fan. I thought EBI was the greatest thing since sliced bread, and that there was like nothing could replace EBI. I have changed my mind 110%. I think combat jiu-jitsu is the greatest thing. I think it's the best. And I think that if you are a high level competitor and you're unwilling to take a combat jiu-jitsu match, then you must not believe in your jiu-jitsu very much, you know, because that's exactly like the bane of Orion Hall or any other person is like, you're trying to get someone down in your jiu-jitsu and they just want to basically kick you. Like they want to just like kick your legs, kick you when you stand back up, just like punish you, you know? The opportunity to get high level guys into situations like, I can't wait to see how Donald Cerrone takes on Craig Jones in this match. You know, like
Do you have a prediction?
You know, I mean, I hope. I honestly, you know, I mean, I think my prediction is that Craig Jones will not leg lock him.
Okay, is it just going to be like another like he's just stubborn and he doesn't want to?
No, I think Craig Jones is going to take his back and choke him, but. That's what I think. I'm calling Craig Jones by rear naked choke. But I'll tell you what, I've been backstage at events with both Cerrone and Craig Jones, and they're both no nonsense type dudes, you know? Like I was backstage at an event with Donald Cerrone, and two things about Donald Cerrone that I liked. One, I asked him if he needed help warming up, because he was just standing around before his match. I said, hey, we were warming up. And I said, hey, do you need anything for a warm up? He goes, nah, not for this. I'm good. Like it was just grappling. He was like, I don't need to warm up for this. Like, I'm good. I do this every day, you know? So I love that. And then after the match was over, he invited everybody to go out to the bar with him and drink unlimited amounts of Bud Light because he says he has a card from Budweiser that lets him order unlimited amounts of Bud Light at any bar that he goes to. So I was like, dude, he has like the executive card from Budweiser. And sadly, I didn't get to take him up on that. I had to go home. I had something else going on. But Donald Cerrone, if you're watching, next time we're at the bar, I will drink a Bud Light with you. Craig Jones. Okay, Craig Jones. I've actually been in Craig Jones's corner before in Submission Underground and other events. And Craig Jones is also a no-nonsense guy. Like, I've seen him go up with guys who skill-wise, he could play with them like a cat and a mouse. Like, he could just play with them if he wanted to. And he doesn't do that. He goes right out for the kill right away. Like, he goes like he had a match with Anthony Rumble Johnson when Rumble Johnson was probably at his thickest. Like, he was like huge. He didn't even look like himself. He looked so big, you know? And Craig went out there and hit him with a heel hook in, I think, about 17 seconds. And I was like, dude, like, I mean, it's impressive, like 17-second heel hook, but like, you know, you could have gone a little longer. And Craig was like, no, like, I don't want that. I don't want to like give him a shot. I don't want to be out there. That guy, you know, these guys are strong. They're huge. They're motivated. They're committed. So I'm interested to see if Craig kind of comes out with that same mentality of, oh, we just turned the smoke alarm off. I'm curious if Craig kind of comes out with that same mentality of like, I'm going to go for the kill right away, or if he's willing to play a little bit more. And I'm interested in how Cowboy is going to treat it, you know, whether he's going to be a little bit more standoffish, try to use some of the wrestling to his advantage, or if he's just going to go right into that dangerous guard of Craig Jones.
Yeah, I'm definitely really interested. I think Craig's gonna mount him. I think Craig's gonna get some type of like body lock or something like that. I just think he's a lot. I mean, Cowboy's a lot bigger than people realize, but I still think Craig's got the size advantage, and I think he's gonna use that I think he's gonna try and mount, and from there, yeah, Cowboy will probably turn his back and choke him. But I mean, if it was a 17-second heel hook, I wouldn't be surprised either.
Yeah. Okay, here's the real question. Here's the real question. Here's an over-under for you guys, because we can actually count this, right? And we can all take our bets, and then Monday morning we can see who was right. Because I know you guys are gamblers, and I know Keelan's there too, thinking about gambling right now. How many strikes will Craig Jones throw in the match? Over or under?
Oh man, that's
a 0.
You think he's going to go for 0? I think he's going to get some in. I think under 10.
Under 10. Because if he mounts like SKAFF is saying, then striking is the best way to expose the back from there.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to. Well, I don't know. Cowboy Cerrone can take some blows.
Craig has had messed up hands though. Like he's had a bunch of messed, like his hands have been. Yeah, he's been like pulling out. So I mean, I wouldn't be shocked to see 0. I mean, I would almost say 0 just because of the hands injuries that he's had leading up to this. So
all right. Well, since SKAFF took 0 and Lindsey took less than 10, I'm gonna go over 10 to make it easy. I'm gonna go 10 plus.
Okay. So we'll have to do some trash talking over the internet.
If it wasn't the hand thing, I think he would try and go for the TKO. I think he would try and mount Donald, just use his jiu-jitsu, mount Donald, because we've been seeing a lot of his training stuff has been really focused on just body lock passing, getting on top, mounting guys. I wouldn't be surprised to see him TKO. I just think with his hands, I wonder how much he's been training striking. And I mean, that's the last thing he wants is to hit Donald's hard head and break his hand in the middle of the match.
I think Craig has the jiu-jitsu to not get hit if he wants to not get hit. You know, I think he has the ability to stay safe and to not get hit. So I think Cerrone's going to have to mix it up a little bit to create his opportunities, because I think if Cerrone plays a straight up game, he doesn't really have a shot at looking too good, you know. Now the other match, the Elias match, I think that's going to be a barn burner. I think that
fascinating.
Yeah,
that's a fascinating thing. And I felt the same way about when we had
Rashad and Ryan.
Rashad and Ryan. And I was fascinated by that because especially with Rashad, if Rashad hit Ryan 2 or 3 times, I mean, that completely changes the match. Completely changes it. And I mean, it was picking Ryan, but I was just that was a toss up for me.
How much
feel the same way about you,
experience did Ryan have? He's had
I don't know.
Yeah, he's had some MMA fights. Yeah, he's had MMA fights.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But not Rashad.
No, not Rashad. But Ryan's ultimate goal is to make it to the UFC. He was on my podcast. We talked a lot about this, and he's had a handful of MMA fights. He's taken the past 3 or 4 years off to just focus on his jiu-jitsu, but ultimately he's looking to make it to the UFC. So I know he was super disappointed in this match being canceled because I think he wanted to test himself in this rule set against a former UFC champion.
So Elias Anderson, though, did he win EBI or was it CJJ?
I think he's won one of them. He's great. That guy's great.
He was super impressive in that competition that he won.
His brother is really good too, and I think that's the match to watch this whole weekend. I think everything's gonna be great, but I think the Elias Anderson versus Uriah, like Uriah. I've been watching Uriah since I was a kid too. I love Uriah, and Uriah can do it all. Uriah can scrap. He can wrestle. He has the jiu-jitsu. He's hard to put away. He has the striking. He has the positional experience. So he can hit, so I think that's going to be a real test for Elias. You know what I mean? That's a huge test for Elias. So
absolutely.
It's going to be really exciting, that one.
Yeah, I'm picking Faber. We saw Faber really frustrate a really young Nicky Ryan, kind of bullied him in that matchup. I think it was at Polaris. It was really rough with him, and I can only imagine if he could have hit Nicky Ryan. I mean, he would have TKO'd Nicky Ryan 100%. Just the way, I mean, he was, again, really being rough with Nicky during that match. I remember he was collar tying him really hard, and I can only imagine in the CJJ match. I mean, I think Faber is going to look really impressive in this format.
Yeah, I think Elias might have better jiu-jitsu, but I think that Uriah is going to control him with the wrestling and then be able to strike him.
Am I allowed to say that it looks like Nicky Ryan looks like he ate Uriah Faber?
I mean, he's looking beefy these days.
He looks thick. I saw him in person at Who's Number One, and I've seen some recent videos. I mean, he looks thick. Nicky Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably 190 right now. And when you take that Uriah match, I mean, he was 16, 17. So, I mean, he was probably 150, 155. So he's a good 40 pounds heavier for sure.
He went from being a 45er to an 85er really fast.
Really bad. I mean, he didn't even stop at 70.
He didn't even slow down at 70.
Just skip it.
I mean, that's kind of what Gordon did, right? He went from 170 to basically 215.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a whole nother conversation. For the grappling discourse.
Phil, let us know, what do you want to shout out before we wrap things up? This is
I want to shout you guys out. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys having me on the podcast. SKAFF and Lindsey have a podcast. The Grappling Discourse. If you guys want to find me, I will be at 10th Planet Portland. You can come visit me. I'm doing a seminar next January at 10th Planet, Detroit, Livonia with Adelaide Cleveland. So I'm excited to go visit those guys. I will be hopefully making my way down to 10th Planet headquarters soon to visit those guys. And but every day, 10th Planet Portland, come check us out and check out our Instagram, because we're putting up a ton of content on our 10th Planet Portland Instagram. So it's a really valuable resource right now.
All right. And be on the lookout for that 10th Planet t-shirt that Phil's going to be putting out to help support these guys.
Everybody, I think we're going to make it for everyone to put out. It won't just be me, but it's going to be, that's coming soon. The art is awesome. Really great artists doing that. And it's for a really good cause, because it goes to benefit other martial artists in the world that are being hard hit by the pandemic. So thank you guys.
Well, we love you, Phil, and thank you for taking some time and chatting with us. We really appreciate it. Love getting to spend time with you.
I hope I get to